Today, Brussels is, of course, the capital of the European Union, but did you know that even back in the 16th century, Brussels was the most important political center in Europe and perhaps even in the world? On top of the Coudenbergh Hill, where today the Royal Square and the Royal Palace are, there once was a gigantic Coudenbergh Palace. It dated back to the early days of Brussels when the local ruler established himself in a fortress on top of the hill. The fortress was replaced by a palace that grew bigger and bigger and served as the residence of first the Dukes of Brabant and later the Dukes of Burgundy, who were well known for their love of luxury, their extravagant lifestyle, and their exuberant parties. But the peak of this palace was the 16th century, when it was the court of Emperor Charles V. Born in Ghent in 1500, he became the ruler of not only the former Burgundian territory, but also the Holy Roman Empire through his father's side. And later, through his mother's side, he also became the King of Spain, including, of course, the colonial territories in the Americas. The Coudenbergh Palace was kind of the Versailles of the 16th century, the place to be for the high aristocracy. It lost its status after Emperor Charles V abdicated, and his son Philip II did not care too much for this part of Europe and remained in Spain. Above ground, nothing remains anymore of this palace, unfortunately, after it burned down in the early 18th century. It was replaced by the classical Place Royale and the current Royal Palace, among others. But you can still visit some remains underground in the Coudenbergh archaeological site. I've always wanted to visit, but it was not until recently that I finally found the time. And I have to say that I was very surprised and amazed about the size of the site. I had actually imagined just a few cellars, but I actually almost got lost underground in the network of underground passages and chambers. When you visit, you enter the ruins in the oldest part, which are the cellars under the main building where the dukes or the emperor's apartments and audience rooms were located. They were probably used for storage. It is believed that the walls here date back to the 12th century. The Aula Magna, the palace's banqueting hall, was definitely the most impressive and prestigious part of the palace. It was built between 1452 and 1460 and was commissioned by the city of Brussels under the instructions of Duke Philip the Good, the Duke of Burgundy. It was the scene of all major events of the Brussels court: the abdication of Charles V in 1555, the princely wedding feast, as well as official receptions and balls. Only the cellars survive nowadays, which are located directly underneath Place Royale, and they were used as kitchens and storage. Another highlight is the remains of a medieval street named Rue Isabelle or Isabel Street. It's underground nowadays, but it used to be open to the sky. The street ran along the palace from Place des Bailles, which was a public square in front of the palace, to the St. Michael and Gudula Church, today the cathedral. It followed the strong slope of the Koperbeek Valley and was named after Archduchess Isabel, who used the street daily to go from the palace to the church for her daily prayer. Now, if you're in Brussels on a rainy day, or if you have a few spare hours and, of course, love history and our ruins, go and visit the Coudenbergh archaeological site. The entrance is just to the right of the Royal Palace.